Number 1. Set firm boundaries. When you're trying to deal with people who don't respect you, one of the most important things you can do is set firm boundaries. It's not just about putting your foot down, it's about making it clear to others that your time, energy, and space are valuable. And here's the thing, if you don't set those boundaries, you're teaching people that it's okay to push you around. But when you do set them, that's when things start to change. Suddenly, people will know what they can and can't get away with. Think about it like this, your personal space, both physical and emotional, is like a house. Now, imagine if you left your front door wide open all the time. People might wander in uninvited, rummage through your stuff, or just stand there talking to you, draining your energy. That's what it's like when you let others walk all over you. But when you close that door and lock it, you send a clear message, this is your space, and it deserves respect. Setting boundaries isn't about being rigid or cold, it's actually a form of self-respect. It's the ability to say, hey, this is what I'm comfortable with, and this is what I'm not. It's about knowing your limits and sticking to them. So, how do you do that? It starts with clarity. You've got to be clear with yourself first. What are the things that drain you? What are the behaviors that make you feel disrespected or taken advantage of? Get to the heart of those feelings. Once you understand where your lines are, it's time to communicate them. And here's the catch, it's not always about being blunt or aggressive. You don't have to go into battle mode. Sometimes, simply stating your needs calmly and directly can do the trick. But it has to be non-negotiable. People will test your boundaries. They'll try to get you to bend, to let a little slip. That's when you need to stand firm, even if it feels uncomfortable. But why is this so important, especially from a Stoic perspective? Well, the Stoics believe that we can't control other people's behavior, but we can control how we respond to it. When you set boundaries, you take control of your own actions, and in doing so, you take control of how you let others treat you. Boundaries are a form of self-mastery. You're not waiting around for people to change, you're making a conscious choice about how much access you'll allow them to your life. It's like building a fence around your peace of mind. And let's be real, setting boundaries can be tough. People don't always like being told no, and you might face resistance. But you have to remind yourself, you're doing this for your own well-being. Your mental and emotional health deserve to be protected. And when you set firm boundaries, you're not just protecting yourself, you're showing others how to treat you. There's another part to this too, consistency. It's not enough to just set boundaries once and think they'll stick. You've got to reinforce them, day in and day out. Every time someone pushes those limits, it's an opportunity for you to reaffirm your stance. And each time you do, it gets a little easier. Slowly but surely, those around you will start to respect your boundaries, and more importantly, you'll start to respect yourself a little more too. In the end, boundaries aren't walls meant to isolate you. They're shields to help you engage with others in a healthier, more balanced way. When you set them, you're saying, this is who I am, and this is what I need. It's a crucial step toward not only dealing with disrespect but ensuring that you never allow it to define you. Number 2, stay calm and composed. When people don't respect you, the temptation to react explosively can be almost magnetic. Your heartbeat might race, your palms might itch to make a statement, and your mind might churn with sharp comebacks. But here's the thing, when you lose your cool, you hand over control. You let the other person dictate the rhythm of your emotions. That's the last thing you want, right? Staying calm and composed doesn't mean you're weak or indifferent, it means you're in control, and that's powerful. Think about it. When someone is disrespectful, they expect a reaction. Maybe they want to provoke you, push your buttons, or see you falter. If you react emotionally, you're playing right into their game. But imagine the power of simply not giving them the satisfaction. A calm demeanor can throw them off more than any argument or heated reply ever could. It's like holding a mirror to their behavior without saying a word. Staying calm isn't always easy, though. It can feel unnatural at first, especially when your pride is hurt or your patience is stretched thin. But here's the secret: calmness isn't something you just switch on. It's a skill. And like any skill, it takes practice. Start by focusing on your breath. When someone is testing your limits, take a deep, deliberate breath. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but it works. That breath gives you a pause, a moment to decide how you'll respond instead of reacting impulsively. Your body language matters, too. Stand tall, shoulders relaxed, and look them in the eye, not with anger, but with unshakable confidence. Speak slowly and clearly. People who are disrespectful often rely on chaos and confusion to gain the upper hand. By staying composed, you deny them that power. It's like being the calm in the middle of a storm. No matter how loud the wind howls, you remain unmoved. But let's be real for a second. Staying calm doesn't mean suppressing how you feel. Suppression is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It works for a while, but eventually, it bursts back up. Instead, acknowledge your feelings internally. Yes, their words or actions might sting. That's okay. Recognizing your emotions doesn't make you weak, it makes you self-aware. And when you're self-aware, you're in a better position to handle the situation with grace. Here's another thing: calmness can be contagious. When you respond to disrespect with poise, you set the tone for the interaction. It's like a silent challenge, a way of saying, "I won't stoop to your level." And often, that alone is enough to shift the dynamic. The disrespectful person might not apologize, but they'll likely rethink their approach, or at least realize their behavior doesn't faze you. So, stay calm. Stay composed. Not for them, but for you. Because in the end, how you respond is a reflection of your character, not theirs. Number 3, demand respect through actions. Alright, let's get one thing straight: respect isn't something you beg for. You don't go around with a sign saying, "Hey, please respect me." That's not how this works. Respect is earned, plain and simple. And the best way to earn it? Through your actions. Not your words, not your intentions, but what you actually do. Think about it. People pay attention when they see consistency. When you say you're going to do something and then actually do it, you start to stand out. Actions hit harder than words ever could. But this isn't about showing off or flexing. It's about silently, confidently doing the work. You don't need a megaphone for people to notice when you're serious about yourself. Now, here's where it gets interesting. There's this unspoken language of respect that people intuitively understand. It's in how you carry yourself. If you're confident but not arrogant, if you're assertive but not aggressive, people feel that. And trust me, they'll respond to it. You're not out there trying to dominate anyone, you're just making it clear that you know your worth. But actions aren't just about big accomplishments. Sometimes it's the small, everyday choices that say the most about you. For example, how do you handle yourself in stressful situations? Do you keep your cool or fall apart? Are you reliable when someone needs you, or do you disappear? The way you navigate life sends a loud message to everyone around you: this is who I am, and I won't accept less than I deserve. And let's talk about boundaries for a second. People who don't respect you will test you, they'll push, they'll prod, and they'll see how much they can get away with. This is where your actions need to do the talking. Set those boundaries firmly and stick to them. It's not about starting a fight or being confrontational. It's about showing, with your choices, that you won't tolerate disrespect. If someone crosses a line, address it calmly but firmly. You're not being mean, you're just standing your ground. Here's the thing: demanding respect through actions isn't about being loud. It's about being intentional. When you focus on being the best version of yourself, mentally, physically, emotionally, people notice. They can't help it. Respect follows naturally when your actions reflect discipline, integrity, and self-respect. It's not an overnight thing, though. Sometimes, it takes time for people to get the message, especially if they're used to treating you a certain way. Stay consistent. Don't back down. The beauty of actions is that they're undeniable. You can argue with words, but you can't argue with someone's track record. So, forget the need to convince anyone with speeches or pleas. Focus on showing up for yourself every day. Do what you say you'll do. Stand firm on your values. Respect yourself first, and the rest will fall into place. Trust me, when your actions demand respect, people will have no choice but to give it. Number 4, avoid engaging in unnecessary conflicts. When it comes to dealing with people who don't respect you, one of the best things you can do is avoid engaging in unnecessary conflicts. This doesn't mean you're weak or passive, quite the opposite, actually. It takes strength and wisdom to pick your battles. The Stoics believed in maintaining a sense of inner peace and clarity, regardless of the chaos happening around you. And when you get caught up in every little conflict, you're giving away that peace. So, why waste your energy? Here's the thing, every time someone disrespects you, it's tempting to fight back. Your ego gets riled up, your pride kicks in, and you feel like you need to defend yourself. But here's where the Stoic mindset comes in. It's not about defending yourself. It's about controlling your reaction. See, when you engage in every argument, every petty disagreement, you're only feeding into the drama. The person who disrespects you may not care much about the conflict, but you've just wasted your time and emotional energy. You've given that person a piece of your peace, and they probably don't even realize it. The Stoics weren't about avoiding conflict because they were afraid of confrontation. They understood something important: not all battles are worth fighting. Some things, they realized, are beyond our control, including the actions of others. If someone disrespects you, that's a reflection of them, not you. So, why respond in a way that would only lower you to their level? When you let go of the urge to argue or prove a point, you maintain your dignity. You stay calm and centered, while the other person flounders in their own emotional turmoil. It's tempting to think that silence in the face of disrespect is weakness. But in reality, it's a form of power. Think about it. Every time you don't engage, you're taking back control. You don't need to win an argument to prove your worth. You just need to be yourself and stay above the fray. And that's what the Stoics would advise. Maintain composure, don't let your emotions rule you, and don't waste energy on things that won't matter in the grand scheme of life. Now, this doesn't mean you should always keep quiet. There's a time to speak up, for sure. But the Stoics were big on being intentional with your words and actions. If you can respond with calmness, with dignity, without letting your emotions spiral out of control, then that's a victory. But if you're just lashing out in the heat of the moment, chances are you're only adding fuel to the fire. And that doesn't serve you in the long run. By avoiding unnecessary conflict, you conserve your energy for what truly matters. You stop letting other people's bad behavior dictate how you feel. The Stoic ideal is to live with a sense of tranquility, regardless of what's happening around you. If you're constantly getting sucked into arguments, you're abandoning that peace. It's about choosing your battles wisely, picking the moments where your voice matters, and stepping back when it doesn't. So next time someone disrespects you, ask yourself, is this worth my time? Will getting into an argument make me feel better or just drain me? More often than not, the best response is no response at all. Keep your peace. And let those who try to drag you into conflict battle with themselves instead. Number 5. Control your emotional reactions. Let's face it, when someone disrespects you, your emotions can feel like a pressure cooker. Anger bubbles up, frustration hisses, and the urge to lash out boils over. But here's the thing, emotional reactions are like wildfires. They spread fast, scorch everything in their path, and leave you with a mess to clean up later. Controlling your emotions isn't about pretending you don't feel them. It's about not letting them dictate your actions. Stoic philosophy teaches us that our power lies in how we respond, not in what happens to us. That means you don't have to react immediately, or at all. Think of it as putting a little distance between the disrespectful act and your response. It's like hitting pause on a remote control instead of fast-forwarding into a shouting match or a wave of regret. But let's get real, it's hard. When someone gets under your skin, the instinct to fight back or defend yourself feels almost primal. The trick? Recognize that initial surge of emotion without acting on it. Name it in your mind, this is anger, or this is hurt. Weirdly enough, just identifying it can take the sting out. Emotions thrive on chaos, but clarity? That's their kryptonite. One way to keep your cool is by asking yourself a simple question: what do I gain from reacting this way? 9 times out of 10, the answer is absolutely nothing. Blowing up might feel good for a moment, like a rush of adrenaline, but it doesn't fix the problem. In fact, it often gives the other person exactly what they want: your attention, your energy, and, most of all, your control. Another way to stay grounded is to focus on your body. Ever notice how emotions aren't just in your head? They live in your body too: tight shoulders, clenched jaw, shallow breaths. By consciously relaxing your muscles or taking a deep breath, you send a signal to your brain: we're not in danger here. Calm down. It's like a reset button for your nervous system. Here's where it gets interesting. When you control your emotional reaction, you shift the power dynamic. Disrespectful people often thrive on the chaos they create. They want to see you flustered or upset because it feeds their sense of control. By staying emotionally steady, you're essentially telling them, I'm not playing this game. And trust me, that throws them off more than any witty comeback ever could. Remember, controlling your emotions doesn't mean bottling them up or pretending you're okay when you're not. It's about channeling them wisely. Instead of reacting in the heat of the moment, save your energy for something that actually matters. You'll walk away feeling lighter, freer, and, most importantly, still in charge of yourself. In the end, mastering your emotional reactions isn't just about handling disrespect, it's about living on your terms. It's about being the captain of your own ship, no matter how rough the waters get. And that's real power. Number 6, practice active listening without compromising values. Here's the tricky part about dealing with disrespectful people: you might feel like shutting them out completely. And honestly, that's tempting, right? But let's flip the script for a second. Instead of tuning them out or jumping straight into defense mode, what if you tried something different? What if you really listened to what they're saying? Not because they're right, but because understanding where they're coming from can give you an edge. Active listening isn't about agreeing with someone or letting them walk all over you. Nope, it's about giving them space to express themselves while keeping your inner balance rock solid. You're not nodding along to everything they say like some bobblehead. You're paying attention with purpose. You're taking mental notes, filtering out the noise, and catching the parts that actually matter. Why does this matter? Because when you listen, not just hear, but listen, you gather intel. You start to see what drives them, what ticks them off, and why they might act the way they do. And sometimes, their disrespect has nothing to do with you. Maybe it's their own insecurity, their ego, or some warped perspective. That's not your problem to solve, but understanding it gives you clarity. And clarity is power. Now, here's the line you don't cross: your values. Listening doesn't mean you let someone's words sink into your core. You don't absorb their negativity or let it shake what you stand for. It's like watching a storm through a window. You see it, you acknowledge it, but you don't step out and get drenched. You stay inside, where it's warm and safe. But how do you balance this? How do you stay open to hearing someone out without letting them chip away at your confidence or boundaries? It's all in your mindset. Approach the conversation with curiosity, not defensiveness. Think of it as gathering information, not engaging in battle. At the same time, mentally anchor yourself. Remind yourself of your principles, your worth, and your goals. That way, their words can't pierce your armor. And don't forget, listening doesn't mean silence. If something crosses the line, call it out. Firmly, calmly, but without anger. You can say, "I hear you, but that's not okay," or "I understand your point, but I disagree." You're showing respect for the conversation without letting them steamroll you. It's a balancing act, but when done right, it's a game changer. The beauty of practicing active listening is that it catches people off guard. Disrespectful folks often expect a reaction. They want to rattle you. When you stay composed and genuinely listen, it shifts the energy. Suddenly, they're the ones feeling uneasy because they can't control the narrative. So, next time someone disrespects you, try it. Listen with intention. Stay grounded in your values. Show them that you can hold space for their words while standing tall in your truth. It's a subtle yet powerful way to take the high road without giving an inch. Number 7, respond with logic, not anger. When someone disrespects you, it's easy to get swept up in a wave of emotion. Anger bubbles up, your heart races, and all you can think about is how to fire back. But here's the thing, responding with anger almost never solves anything. In fact, it often makes the situation worse. So, what can you do instead? Respond with logic, not anger. You see, when you're angry, your emotions take the wheel, and you're no longer in control. You might say things you don't mean, escalate the tension, or even say something you'll regret later. Anger clouds judgment and shuts down your ability to think clearly. It's like being in a fog. You can't see the full picture, and all you're focused on is how to retaliate. But logic? Logic is a whole different beast. When you approach a disrespectful situation with a clear mind, you can step back, evaluate the situation, and decide how to respond in a way that aligns with your values. You're no longer reacting impulsively, you're responding intentionally. You might not always get the reaction you expect, but that's not the point. The point is that you've maintained your composure, and in doing so, you've kept control of the situation. Think about it. When someone disrespects you, the natural reaction is to want to defend yourself, to prove that you're right, to show that they've crossed a line. But the Stoic perspective reminds us that we can't always control how others act, we can only control how we respond. Responding with logic means stepping back and asking yourself, what's the most rational, constructive way to handle this? It's about rising above the emotional storm and using your mental clarity to steer the conversation. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not about bottling up your feelings or pretending they don't exist. You can acknowledge that you're hurt, frustrated, or angry, but the key is to express those feelings in a way that doesn't let them control you. Logic gives you the space to process emotions without being ruled by them. Instead of reacting on impulse, you can choose a measured response, one that aligns with your goals and your values. Here's a simple way to think about it. When you respond with anger, you're engaging in a battle of egos. It's about who's right, who's stronger, who can shout louder. But when you respond with logic, you're elevating the conversation. You're addressing the issue, not the person. You're not focused on the emotional drama, you're focused on resolving the conflict with reason and dignity. And in doing so, you take the high road. It's easy to get pulled into an emotional whirlpool when someone disrespects you, but responding with logic keeps you grounded. You can calmly explain your perspective, express how their actions have affected you, and then, ideally, move forward. You're not just reacting, you're engaging with the situation in a way that reflects your true self, not the person they're trying to provoke. In the end, responding with logic isn't about winning the situation, it's about maintaining your integrity. You keep your cool, avoid unnecessary drama, and don't let someone else's disrespect dictate your actions. This isn't just a way to handle conflict, it's a way to live, one that reflects the Stoic belief that peace of mind comes from within, not from the actions of others. Number 8. Limit your time with toxic individuals. Here's the truth, not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. Some people bring nothing but drama, negativity, and a constant raincloud of disrespect wherever they go. And let's be honest, it's exhausting. You know that feeling of walking away from someone and just being drained, like they sucked all the good energy out of you? That's your inner wisdom waving a giant red flag. Now, when it comes to toxic individuals, the Stoics would say this: your time and energy are finite. You wouldn't toss handfuls of gold coins to just anyone on the street, right? So why give away something even more precious, your attention, to people who don't value you? Limiting your time with these individuals isn't about being cold or rude. It's about protecting your mental and emotional well-being. You owe that to yourself. Here's where it gets tricky. Toxic people often have a knack for pulling you back into their orbit. Maybe it's through guilt, manipulation, or sheer persistence. They'll push boundaries, test limits, and make you second-guess yourself. But this is where you have to get really clear about your priorities. Ask yourself, does spending time with this person help me grow, or does it hold me back? Do I feel lighter after our interactions, or heavier? If the answers lean toward the negative, it's time to create some distance. Now, I'm not saying you have to cut people off entirely, though sometimes that's necessary. But you can start by being intentional about how much access they have to you. If someone always brings drama or disrespect to the table, stop offering them a seat. You don't have to attend every argument, every insult, or every passive-aggressive jab they throw your way. Sometimes, the best response is simply not showing up. Setting boundaries doesn't have to be dramatic. It's as simple as saying no more often, keeping conversations short, or choosing to engage with them on your terms, not theirs. Remember, every time you say no to someone who drains you, you're saying yes to your own peace of mind. And that's a trade-off worth making every single time. Here's the kicker: the more you limit your time with toxic individuals, the clearer your mind becomes. It's like decluttering a messy room. When the noise quiets down, you can finally hear yourself think. You'll have more energy for the people who genuinely care about you, for the passions that light you up, and for the goals that matter most. And guess what? The more you protect your space, the less tolerance you'll have for disrespect in any form. Toxic people will either adjust their behavior or drift away when they realize you're no longer an easy target. Either way, you win. So don't feel guilty about creating distance. You're not being selfish, you're being wise. Life is too short to spend it wrapped up in negativity. Limit your time with those who drain you, and you'll make room for everything and everyone who uplifts you. Number 9. Prioritize self-respect over external approval. Here's the truth nobody tells you: chasing approval is a losing game. No matter how hard you try, you can't please everyone. Some people won't respect you, no matter how kind, talented, or accommodating you are. And guess what? That's okay. The real question is, do you respect yourself? Because, let's be honest, that's where it all begins. When you prioritize self-respect, you shift the focus inward. It's like flipping a switch. Instead of bending over backward to win someone's approval, you ask yourself, am I living in line with my values? Am I proud of how I'm showing up for myself? If the answer is yes, then that's all the validation you need. Seriously, external opinions lose their grip when you're grounded in your own sense of worth. Now, let's break this down. What does self-respect actually look like? It's not about being arrogant or acting like you're better than everyone else. No, it's quieter than that. It's in the small but powerful ways you honor yourself. It's saying no when something doesn't feel right, even if it's awkward or uncomfortable. It's holding yourself to your own standards, not the ones society, or anyone else, tries to shove on you. And here's the thing about external approval, it's fickle. One day, people might praise you, the next, they might tear you down. You can't build your foundation on something that's shaky. Imagine trying to build a house on quicksand. Yeah, it's going to collapse. But when you anchor yourself in self-respect, that's solid ground. That's a foundation that won't crack, no matter how hard the world pushes. Of course, it's not always easy to let go of the need for external validation. We're wired to want connection, to feel liked, to belong. But there's a big difference between healthy relationships and seeking approval at the cost of your own peace. When you prioritize self-respect, you set the tone for how others treat you. You teach people that you're not here to be disrespected, dismissed, or overlooked. And let's not forget the power of boundaries. They're like a protective shield for your self-respect. When someone disrespects you, your boundary is what steps in and says, "Nope, that's not how this works." It's not about being cold or distant, it's about making it clear that you value yourself enough to walk away from disrespect, no matter who it's coming from. So how do you get there? Start by asking yourself, what do I truly value? What kind of person do I want to be? Then, align your actions with those answers. Hold your head high, even if someone disapproves. Because here's the secret, the more you respect yourself, the less you'll care about who doesn't. At the end of the day, the most important relationship you'll ever have is with yourself. So nurture it. Protect it. And let that self-respect shine so brightly that no amount of external disrespect can dim it. Number 10. Stay true to your principles. When people disrespect you, it's easy to get thrown off balance. It's like someone's taken a swing at you, and now you're left trying to figure out how to respond. In those moments, it's tempting to let your emotions dictate your actions. You might feel the urge to retaliate, defend yourself, or even bend your values just to make the discomfort go away. But here's the thing, staying true to your principles, no matter what others throw at you, is one of the most powerful things you can do. Your principles, your core beliefs, are like a compass. They guide you through life, shaping how you interact with the world and how you handle challenges. When you let disrespect knock you off course, you're essentially abandoning the very thing that defines who you are. So, what does it really mean to stay true to your principles, especially when you're dealing with disrespect? First, it's about remembering who you are, regardless of how others act. People can treat you however they want, but that doesn't mean you have to mirror that behavior or let it change your own values. It's easy to get sucked into a negative cycle where someone treats you poorly, and you start to question yourself. But the Stoic approach is all about focusing on what's in your control. You can't control other people's actions, but you can control how you respond. And that starts with holding steady to your beliefs. Staying true to your principles doesn't mean being rigid or dogmatic. It's not about being stubborn or inflexible, it's about acting from a place of integrity. It's choosing to do the right thing, even when it's hard, even when the world around you seems to be falling apart. When you stay grounded in your principles, you're not just reacting to others, you're acting from a place of inner strength. The Stoics were big on this. They believed that no matter how chaotic the outside world gets, you always have the ability to control your internal world. By staying true to your principles, you're essentially building an emotional shield. When someone disrespects you, they're trying to make you feel less than. But if you hold firm to your values, you won't be swayed. You won't let their negativity seep into your soul. You'll remain steadfast, knowing that their behavior doesn't define you. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but if I stay true to my principles, won't I just be a doormat? Won't people walk all over me? It's a fair concern. But here's the thing, staying true to your principles doesn't mean letting people treat you poorly. It means responding to them in a way that reflects the person you want to be, not the person they're trying to provoke. You don't have to react with anger or disrespect. You can still stand firm without stooping to their level. At the end of the day, your principles are what anchor you. When life feels unpredictable and people act out of line, your values will give you clarity. They'll help you navigate the storm with your head held high. Because no matter how others behave, you know exactly who you are and what you stand for. You're not swayed by external noise. And that, more than anything, is the kind of strength that others can't take from you. So, the next time someone disrespects you, take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what do I stand for? What's important to me? Stay true to those answers. Keep your integrity intact, and let that be your guiding light through the noise. Your principles are your superpower, no one can take that away from you unless you let them. Number 11, address disrespect directly but respectfully. When someone disrespects you, it's tempting to either stay silent or go on the offensive. Neither approach really works. Bottling it up leaves you simmering with frustration, while an aggressive response usually escalates the situation into something ugly. Instead, there's a sweet spot, addressing the issue head-on, but with respect and composure. It's not about teaching them a lesson. It's about standing your ground without losing your dignity. Now, let's be real, it takes courage to call out disrespect. It's uncomfortable, even nerve-wracking. But think about it this way, ignoring it sends a silent message that it's okay for them to treat you this way. On the other hand, addressing it sets a boundary. It's like planting a flag in the ground and saying, "This is where I draw the line." The key is to keep your cool. When emotions are running high, it's easy to let frustration or anger take over. But if you come in hot, the other person is more likely to get defensive than reflective. Instead, approach the conversation with a steady tone and clear intention. You're not trying to attack them, you're trying to communicate how their actions made you feel. It's not "you're always so disrespectful," but more like, "I felt disrespected when this happened." Notice the difference? One feels like a personal attack, while the other invites dialogue. And that's the goal here, to open the door for understanding, not slam it shut with hostility. Another tip? Be specific. Vague statements like "you don't respect me" often lead nowhere because they lack context. Instead, point to a specific instance or comment that crossed the line. This makes it harder for the other person to dismiss what you're saying or brush it off as overreaction. At the same time, stick to the facts. Avoid exaggerating or making assumptions about their intentions. Keep the focus on the behavior, not on labeling the person. Now, there's always a chance the other person won't respond the way you hope. They might deny, deflect, or even double down on their disrespect. If that happens, don't let it shake you. Remember, you're not responsible for how they react, you're responsible for how you show up. By addressing the issue calmly and respectfully, you've done your part. What they choose to do with that is on them. On the flip side, you might be surprised by how often people don't realize they've crossed a line until it's pointed out. Disrespect can sometimes stem from ignorance, not malice. By addressing it directly, you give them a chance to course correct. And if they choose not to, well, at least you know where you stand. At its core, addressing disrespect respectfully is about valuing yourself enough to speak up, but also valuing the relationship enough to do so constructively. It's a balancing act, sure, but it's one worth mastering. After all, respect is a two-way street, and if someone refuses to walk it with you, at least you'll know you tried. Number 12, forgive but don't forget repeated offenses. Let's get something straight, forgiveness isn't about giving someone a free pass to walk all over you. It's not about pretending something never happened or ignoring the sting of their words or actions. No, forgiveness is about freeing yourself. It's about letting go of the anger and resentment that, if left unchecked, can eat away at your peace of mind. But here's the catch, you don't have to forget. When someone disrespects you, especially more than once, it's a sign. It's their way of showing you who they are. Pay attention to that. Forgiving them doesn't mean you erase the offense from your memory or allow the cycle to continue. It means you acknowledge what happened, release the emotional weight, and protect yourself from further harm. Forgiveness is for you, not for them. Think of it this way, if someone hands you a broken clock, you don't expect it to start keeping time. You can forgive the clock for being broken, sure. But if you keep relying on it to tell you the hour, that's on you. The same goes for people. If someone has shown you a pattern of disrespect, take note of it. Don't assume they'll suddenly change just because you've chosen to forgive. Now, this doesn't mean you hold grudges. Grudges are heavy, and they'll weigh you down if you carry them for too long. Forgiving is about lightening your own load. But not forgetting? That's about learning. It's about setting boundaries and making sure the same mistake doesn't happen again. You can let go of the bitterness while still keeping your eyes open. So, how do you handle someone who's crossed the line multiple times? Start with forgiveness, true, genuine forgiveness. Not for them, but for you. Let go of the anger, because holding on to it won't help you move forward. But then, take a step back. Evaluate the situation. Ask yourself, is this a one-time lapse in judgment, or is this who they are? If it's the latter, it's time to protect your space. That doesn't mean you have to cut them off completely, but it does mean you might need to adjust your expectations. Forgiving without forgetting also means being proactive. If you've forgiven someone for repeated offenses but see no change in their behavior, it's time to reevaluate the relationship. You're not obligated to keep giving them the benefit of the doubt, especially if their actions keep undermining your peace. You can forgive someone and still decide to step away from them for your own well-being. And let's not forget, forgiving doesn't make you weak. It takes strength to let go of resentment. But remembering? That makes you wise. So, forgive freely, but don't ignore the lessons buried in those experiences. Respect yourself enough to hold on to the wisdom that comes from being hurt. That way, you're not just letting go of the past, you're setting yourself up for a stronger, more resilient future. Number 13, walk away when necessary. When you're faced with disrespect, sometimes the wisest move isn't to stand your ground, argue, or try to change the other person's mind. Sometimes, the best thing you can do is simply walk away. Now, I know what you're thinking, it sounds a bit like giving up, right? But walking away doesn't mean you're weak or running from the problem. It means you're taking control of the situation in the most powerful way possible, by choosing peace over conflict. You don't always have to engage in every battle. Sometimes, the best course of action is to recognize when a conversation, a relationship, or even an entire situation is no longer worth your time or energy. The Stoics were big on this idea. They knew that we can't control how other people behave, but we can absolutely control whether or not we let them drag us into their chaos. And often, walking away is a form of strength, not defeat. Think of it this way. If you're trying to fight an unwinnable battle, all you're doing is wasting your resources. Every minute you spend arguing, every ounce of energy you put into trying to prove a point, is energy you could be using elsewhere, to improve yourself, to nurture meaningful relationships, or simply to enjoy life. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Walking away is often the most rational and effective reaction to someone who disrespects you. It's saying, "I'm not going to waste my time and energy on this," and choosing to walk down a path that serves you better. It's not always easy, though. There's a part of us that feels the need to fight, to defend our honor, to prove we won't be pushed around. But here's the thing, engaging with someone who is disrespectful is rarely productive. More often than not, it just escalates the situation. They want to get a rise out of you, and if you give them that, you're playing into their hands. When you walk away, you're refusing to engage in that game. You're saying, "I don't need to prove myself to you." But how do you know when it's time to walk away? That's the tricky part. It comes down to self-awareness. If the situation is draining you emotionally, if the person is clearly not interested in hearing your side, or if you've been through the same toxic cycle before, it might be time to step back. The Stoics taught that we should focus on what's within our control, and sometimes, the most empowering thing you can do is to control your own exit. Walking away doesn't mean you're abandoning the relationship or giving up on the person. It simply means you're choosing to protect your peace. You're deciding that your emotional well-being is more important than trying to fix someone else's issues. The Stoics believed in maintaining tranquility, even when the world around you is full of noise. By walking away from a disrespectful situation, you're preserving your own sense of peace, and in the process, you're not letting anyone else's actions dictate your emotional state. There's a kind of freedom that comes with this choice. When you stop trying to change people who are unwilling to change, when you stop engaging in battles that aren't worth fighting, you free yourself from unnecessary drama. You realize that your energy is precious, and you can direct it toward things that actually matter. So, next time someone disrespects you, take a moment. Ask yourself, is this worth my time? If the answer is no, don't be afraid to walk away. You'll be surprised how much more control you feel over your life when you choose peace over conflict. It's not about letting people walk all over you, it's about walking away from situations that don't deserve your time. Thank you for watching. Respect isn't something you demand, it's something you command through your actions, character, and mindset. By applying these Stoic principles, you can handle disrespect with dignity and focus on what truly matters, your inner peace and growth. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. Share this video with someone who could use these insights in their life. Remember, respect begins with self-control and self-respect. Stay calm, stay focused, and keep building your inner control. See you in the next video.